How's it going, everybody? My name is Michael Levan, developer advocate at Octopus Deploy, and today for this video on the Festive Tech Calendar, we're going to take a look at infrastructure as software, and we're going to be using Pulumi, Go or Golang, and Azure. Now, if you've never heard of infrastructure as software, it's actually very similar to infrastructure as code. Whereas with infrastructure as code, you would have things like JSON or YAML to configure your cloud services. With infrastructure as software, you're going to be using a general purpose programming language like Go or Python or C# to actually create and modify all of those cloud resources. And that's exactly what we're going to take a look at in this video for getting started with Pulumi right now. I'm at Google here, and all you have to do is simply type in Pulumi in the Google search bar, and you're going to see Pulumi Modern Infrastructure as Code pop right up. We're going to click on Pulumi, and then from the home page, we're going to click Sign In. Now, there are a few different ways to sign in here: GitHub, GitLab, Atlassian, standard email and password. I personally like to sign in with GitHub, but whichever version that you want to use is more than sufficient. So I'm going to click on GitHub. And then what this is going to do is this is going to bring me to an environment that I actually already have available because I've already authenticated to Pulumi. And I could do things like select an organization. For example, this is actually my GitHub profile or my GitHub name, admin turned DevOps. So I can click on that, and that's actually going to select my organization here. From here, we can click on Create New Project. And from this new project portal, what we can do is we can choose our cloud. So we have AWS, we have Azure, we have Google Cloud, and then we have Kubernetes. So we're going to click on Azure. And then under the Choose Your Language pane, you can see that there are a plethora of different languages you can use: TypeScript, JavaScript, Python, Go, C#, F#, VB, and they're constantly adding new languages here and new support. So definitely ensure that you always take a look at this and see all the new features that are coming. So I'm going to, of course, choose Go. And then I'm going to click Next here, and I'm going to choose a project name. So I'm going to say Festive Calendar 2020. And then here I can choose a description. I can say Festive Calendar Recording. So now I can give a stack name. So your stack name you could choose for like your different type of environments, dev or UAT or prod or anything like that. So I'll keep it on dev. And then for the configuration, I have a few different options here for Azure: public, US government, German, or China. I'm of course just going to keep it public because I'm in the US and I'm not in the government. So I'm going to click Create on Project here. And then as you can see, you have a bunch of different options to get started with Pulumi. Now, the really cool thing about Pulumi is they don't just throw you into the fire and just expect you to just learn it or Google it. They give you everything you need right here and ready for you. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to choose which operating system I'm on. Because I'm on Windows, I'm going to use Chocolatey to install Pulumi. So I'm going to copy to the clipboard. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up PowerShell as an administrator. So I have PowerShell open here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this choco install Pulumi command. And as you can see, I already have Pulumi installed. However, if you'd like to reinstall it or upgrade or install a specific version, you can absolutely do that. So now let's head back to the portal here, and we can see that now we need to create a new directory. And that new directory, of course, they recommend to just name it the same thing as your project that you named, and then cd or change directory into that new directory. So I'm going to click on the copy command. I'm going to open up PowerShell again. I'm actually just going to cd directly to my desktop. And then I'm going to run this command to create the new directory and cd into the directory. And as we can see, we have that new Festive Calendar 2020 directory. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pull down our project so we can actually get started. So I'm going to copy this command. Again, I'm going to go back to PowerShell. And as we can see, we have Pulumi new. So we can initialize this directory and pull down the project. So we're going to click enter here. And then this is going to create that new project for us, and it's going to install any dependencies that are needed. And as we can see, our new project is ready to go, and we can run that Pulumi up command just like we see here. But instead of that, let's actually look at the code that's available for us. So from PowerShell, I'm going to write code dot, and this is going to open up VS Code for me right here. So I'm going to maximize that a little bit. And as you can see, there are already a bunch of different things for us. So for example, we have our Go mod here where we're specifying the module name. We're also specifying the Go version that we're using, and then the required packages that are needed, because Pulumi actually has its own Go SDK for Azure. So we're going to be using those SDKs. And then if we go to GoSum, GoSum is going to ensure that whoever uses this module is using the same packages as us. And then we're going to go to the main configuration. And this main configuration, as you can see, there is some Go code already here for us. And this is just kind of like an example almost, but this will actually work. It'll create a new resource group for us. So what we can do after that, we're going to come right back to this code in a second, but I do want to show the Pulumi dev YAML, and this is going to be our configuration for Pulumi. And then we also have the name of the project, the runtime that we're using, Go, and then the description. So let's go ahead and go back to the main configuration. From here, let's go through the code line by line. So the first thing is we're going to use that package main. This is our main configuration. And then we have our imports, and our imports are going to be using core and storage from the Pulumi Azure Go SDK, and that's to create a resource group and to create a storage count. And then we also have the Go SDK versioning here on line 6, where we're using the Go SDK for Pulumi. If we scroll down a little bit here, we have our main primary function. And then we're going to see pulumi.run, and there's going to be an anonymous function. It's going to be one argument, CTX, and that argument is tied to the Pulumi context. And there's a pointer there that's pointing to the value of pulumi.context. And then we can see that the return type is of error. And then we have a variable. We actually have two variables, resource group and So resource group is going to be creating the new resource group for us. And then error is going to be returning any errors if the errors don't equal nil. What we want to do at this point is I'm actually literally going to delete everything for the storage account. So we're not going to need that right now. And then what we're going to do is we're also going to delete this export here. So now all we're left with is our main configuration to create a resource group. So let's edit this up a little bit. What we're actually going to do is we're going to turn this function into create resource group. And then we're going to come right up here to line 9. We're going to create a new function called main. And then what we're going to do from here is we're going to actually call that create resource group function from our main function. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create some variables for our new resource group. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in resource group name equals test123, and then we're going to type in location equals West US. So now that we have those variables set up, what we can do is we can actually pass them in through our function. So we'll say resource group name, location, and then those are of all type string. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do same thing for our params right here. Okay, and then now what we're going to do is we're actually going to get rid of string here. And then what we're going to be able to do is we're going to pass those parameters in right here. So we're going to type resource group name, and then for the location, we're going to pass in location. So now we have to do a few more things and we'll be all set. So we have this if statement here that if an error doesn't equal nil, it's going to return an error. We're going to do an else statement here, and we're going to say fmt println resource group. So that's going to create and print out our resource group. Now the final thing that we need to do is we need to get a return at the end of this function. So since the type is of type error, we'll just do another return of at the end of this anonymous function. So with that, let's actually create our new resource. So I'm going to go to my terminal here. I'm going to clear my screen, and I'm going to type in Pulumi up. And what it's going to do is it's going to start to review the code. It's going to download any plugins that we need. Then it's going to start to create our resource. Now it's going to ask us if we want to perform the update. We're going to click on yes, and this update is going to be to create the new resource group. And as we can see, the new resource has successfully been created. So now let's head over to the Azure portal and see that new resource group. I'm at the Azure portal here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my resource groups, and we can now see this new resource group that has been created. And with that, that's how you can use infrastructure software with a very, very popular platform today called Pulumi, and we can tie that in with Azure to create many resources, including resource groups. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again next year.